Right. I am absolutely thrilled to be having this conversation that will go up at performingartsreview.net along with a review of this just absolutely amazing, hang on a second, got to get rid of one little thing, just amazing CD that we're going to talk about. This is, let's see, we're going to, I hope it's going to turn out as top and bottom, so to say, forgive me, but Eileen Strempel, soprano, is the blonde at the bottom of the screen with a gorgeous looking 19th century fireplace, I believe, behind her. And Sylvie Beaudette is there she is the pianist. We are talking about a CD that was put out by Centaur Records in 2014. Unto Thee I Burn. 19 actually, art songs by North American women composers. This is a CD that is rapturous. The composition by these incredible composers. I know Libby Larsen, but the others, I'll be honest, I didn't know who these wonderful women composers were. What a discovery for me, what an adventure, but absolutely gorgeous music and music making by both of you. Collaborative artists indeed, as you said just before we got started. You have indeed a marriage between you, an artistic marriage. It's stunning. So let me just run it by once more, and then we'll get going. Eileen Strempel, soprano, on the bottom. If that's the way it's going to turn out, we never know. It could be differently when I put it out. But and Sylvie Beaudette. I hope I'm pronouncing your name with proper Quebecois, pianist. The CD is called Unto Thee I Burn. All of the works on this CD are poems by E. Cummings. Love this man's writing, and I'm going to give you a little bit. I can't resist. It's the title. It's from Unto Thee I Burn. E. Cummings. Here I go. Unto Thee I burn incense. The bowl crackles upon the gloom. Arise, purple pencils, fluent spires of fragrance. The bowl seethes. A flutter of stars, a turbulence of forms. And it goes on, but I think that what I have just read exactly describes this amazing CD. It's just stunning. It's been a glorious revelation and epiphany and experience for me. So thank you both very, very much for giving me this opportunity to speak with you, but also to praise this CD. Yeah, absolutely stunning. Let's do a little bit on who you guys are. Why don't we start with Eileen Strempel, soprano. Let me say in the beginning, as I have off camera, I do not understand how you can do this. How you can be a professional soprano and also run a whole college, I guess. We're talking about. Let me find you. Why don't you tell me what you do? Because I'm running down the stack here. Eileen, go. This is the amazing thing. Speak to me about yours being a soprano and other things.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for this incredible honor of the conversation here, and it's truly a celebration for both Sylvie and I. This is, as always, our work together as a complete collaborative team, and so it's just a delight to have us both be here to speak with you today. I'm actually currently in Cincinnati at the College Conservatory of Music, or CCM. And I just finished a 3-year stint as the Senior Vice Provost for Academic Affairs. So I do balance administration with teaching of voice and some wonderful music making with dear friends. So I consider myself incredibly blessed and fortunate.
And of course, your husband is the musicologist Stephen Meyer, and you know along the way you raised 2 kids. I'm dumbfounded. Sylvie is at
Yes.
Eastman School of Music. I've already told you my story about Eastman School of Music. Please tell me
I'm
what
so
you do.
sorry, Dan.
Oh no, it was quite a learning nightmare. This is my audition at Eastman when I was about 18.
Yes, yes. Well, I have my audition story at Eastman as well, but it ended well, and not unlike yours. But yes, I do teach at the Eastman School of Music in the chamber music department. But I'm also in the administrative area. I direct the Summer at Eastman program,
Yes.
which is our version of the summer session at Eastman. So that keeps me busy. And Eileen and I have both a pair of sons. So she has two sons, I have two sons. We copy each other. So
Tell me a little bit about the summer at Eastman, because it's a wonderful program from what I've read. Give me a little
yeah,
bit of it.
basically we have three kinds of programs. We have the collegiate program, which is a regular summer session where the current students can finish their degree or can get ahead. So we have collegiate courses offered. The other part is to offer pre-collegiate courses where high school kids can have a taste of Eastman and see if it is for them. If it is, that would have been a good program for you.
It would have. It would have.
Then we have 1 week institutes that are targeted to both high school kids, but also to music teachers, adults who want to kind of get back into music or get faculty development hours to keep their credential in music education and so forth. So we have a little bit for everyone, and so that's about 40-ish programs per summer. Yeah.
That's incredible. That's amazing.
Yeah. Not more than that, though.
So obviously the two of you are very, very busy. And by the way, my story came out okay. I went to Cal Arts and was the first conducting major there, and had a wonderful teacher, Lawrence Layton Smith, and studied with Henry Temianka and also in Los Angeles. And later, as an adult, having walked the path of fire barefoot as a kid, I had wonderful, very lengthy conversations with the American composer David Diamond in Rochester. We talked about his Eighth Symphony quite a lot. I was going to see if we could record it with the American Collegiate Symphony Orchestra. It has yet to be recorded. It's a monumental, huge, massive work. But let's just talk about these amazing women composers. Now, I've mentioned that I'm familiar with Libby Larsen. Love Libby Larsen's orchestral and string music, the descriptive and imaginative music of hers, but the songs are magnificent. Tell me, I'm going to let you guys do. Why don't we go do it a little more alphabetically? Let's start with the first composer on the CD. By the way, how did you decide to arrange these composers? You know what I mean? How do you make those kind of decisions?
Eileen.
Okay.
I was to you, Sylvia.
Is the matchmaker.
Actually, just to kind of, there's a certain serendipity the way that these things evolve, and I'll actually use Libby Larsen, the composer that you started out with, to give a hint of that serendipity. So I had mentioned to Libby that Sylvie and I were engaged in yet another wonderful project together, and she'd written some amazing songs for our last CD prior to this one on Atwood. And just in that, I went out to get the mail one day, and there was a package from Libby just waiting for me. And it was a gift. The song was a gift that she had composed specifically for Sylvie and myself to be able to include on the CD. So that kind of gives you a hint of sometimes just the delightful gifts that just fall into your lap very unexpectedly. And each of the sets has their own sweet story that way. And you know, because Sylvie and I have worked together so long, most of the composers really wrote for the two of us, and understanding Sylvie's gift, especially with color and the way that she phrases, and the two of us, how much we're just breathe with each other and help each other, and so it's been a delightful project.
And you are without doubt a lyric soprano, a lyric coloratura, the range, the beauty, the gorgeous quality, timbre of your voice. It's just marvelous. And then Eileen is there always with you. It's so clear when two people collegially just breathe, if you will, with one another, and that is the beauty of this CD. And did I mention it's gorgeous? Have I said that already a few times? Absolutely the gorgeous, gorgeous CD. This should be in the collection and repertoire for all professional and student singers. This is really a very, very important CD. Let's talk. Why don't you tell me a little bit? Am I looking at Eileen still? Judith Cloud. Oh, gorgeous, gorgeous composer.
Oh, let Sylvie take that one.
Okay.
Oh, sure, sure. Judith Cloud, it's a great connection. She lives in Flagstaff, Arizona, and she knew my piano teacher at Arizona State University, where I did my master's degree. So there is that connection there already. And in hindsight, I remember that my teacher had talked about Judith in the past, but I had never had the chance to meet Judith in person until Eileen and I attended the International Alliance for Women in Music conference in Miami, Florida. This was 2007. What was that, Eileen? I think it was 2007 or 2006, something like that. And we met Judith there. And the conference, a set by Elisenda Fabregas, and it was a set of Atwood songs. And she, I guess, was inspired by this, and she wrote an entire set that arrived in our mailbox again as a gift. So when we finished our Atwood project, Eileen had this idea right away after a NATS conference, after she sang Jocelyn Hayden's set. She said, we have to have another Atwood project, but this time on E.E. Cummings' poetry. And so we, talked to several composers, and Judith was happy to send us a couple of songs. And the one that we really, really loved was the one that was included in the CD, because it is so hypnotic and just that horizontal feel that is floating there. It is, I don't have any other word for it. It's hypnotic. There's that repetition of that motive. So
lost you a little bit there. It happens now and again, but go ahead.
Okay. So yeah, I was just mentioning that the motive that is repeated over and over acts like a mantra, and kind of gets you into that Zen mode, if you want to compare it to a meditation. But I really love this song as well. I'm glad that Judith wrote that one for us. The other one that another song that is a singer, we were talking about Libby Larsen, and that's also one of my favorite. Eileen sings a cappella in this one, and it is mesmerizing. Because of the way Libby treats the text. If you look at the text, you will see some that are in parentheses and some that are not. And the way Libby writes makes it very, very clear what is a straight text and what is in parentheses. And of course, you have to have a great performer to do that and have that subtlety. And that's why, Eileen did an amazing rendition of that song, and it's still one of my favorites in the CD.
And thank you for explaining that about the text, because I wondered, I noticed and wondered. It just frankly went over my head a little bit. But let me also read a quote that I think is magnificent about Judith Cloud. It's from her colleague, coordinator of voice at Northern Arizona University, and here's the quote: "Judith Cloud is that rare sort of triple threat, who is a first-rank song composer, a gifted and busy mezzo-soprano soloist in her own right, and a highly regarded voice teacher who is currently coordinator of music at Northern Arizona University." it just fits it all. And this is again is what has amazed me about the busy, multitasking lives of you women. It drives me crazy. I can hardly get myself together every day. We
Well,
talk,
another direct quote from Judith Cloud. She was telling us about when she was young. She was a young girl, and she wanted to be a composer at some point. And she would go to music classes, and she would not see anybody looking like her, like herself. And so she decided that it was, no, that's not for her. That's not for a little girl. And it took her, when did she start to write? I mean, do you remember? It was kind of late, eh?
Late 30s.
Yeah, in her 30s when she started to write, and she finally started seeing women composers and discovered that she too had something to say. So that was, to me, it was it was very. I felt sad hearing that she had lost all this time. Of course, she's trying to catch up, but you know, you hear or you read about composers who wrote big works, and it's often in their 20s when they're fearless and they're not afraid to tackle those big projects. And so here she is starting late in life, and she probably missed that opportunity.
but it speaks also very profoundly to the prejudice in our society. It's just so horrible. And as we mentioned, it's getting better and better. I'm interviewing many women composers and women conductors. It's getting better, but what a long journey it has been, and still continues to be. You know, let's talk.
Is a humble contribution, and we are trying to promote, in our own way, all those women composers that we love, and we've made such great connection with them. So
let's talk a little bit about Hilary Tan. I hope I'm pronouncing her name properly.
Yeah.
Whose turn is it?
Oh, well, I wanted to also just mention too that it is just so important, exactly what Sylvie has touched upon, the lack of visible and viable role models, whether that's as composers, whether that's as university administrators. Women are still very underrepresented. Most folks, if you ask them on the street if they could name a female visual artist, could name several. But if you ask the average person on the street to name a woman composer, unfortunately, most people can't. So Sylvie is exactly right, and I think we were kind of fond of joking between the two of us that Mozart and Beethoven are going to be just fine without us. But it's a special joy to curate and put together these types of projects together because of the importance. We hope that it will be not just for these composers, but for the other young Judith Clouds out there.
Yeah. And about Hilary Tan, Welsh-born composer, lives in the foothills of the Adirondacks. I love that. And just happens to be chair of the music department, or at least I hope she's still there. This may be a couple of years old, but chair of the music.
Retiring. I heard she's retiring this year, at the end of the year. Yeah.
But at the music department at John Howard Payne, she's the John Howard Payne professor at Union College in Schenectady. So busy people, all of you. Regina, am I pronouncing that correctly? Regina Harris Biacci. Regina Harris Biacci. I hope I've got the Italian halfway decently pronounced. Tell me, a writer, a poet? I mean, tell me a little bit. Who wants it? Who wants her?
Well, I'll let Sylvie talk about Hilary Tan in just a moment, because Hilary was actually one of the featured composers for the Women in Music Festival. So Sylvie should have an opportunity to talk about Hilary. But Regina Harris Biocchi, I first became aware of her work. There's a wonderful resource about African American women composers that's called, I'm going to misquote the title, but it's something along the line of From Symphony to Song. And it really traced the whole lineage of classical African. writing for the church. We weren't writing in a jazz or gospel style, which still would have been more acceptable in the African American community, but women who were writing in a kind of classical, white, high art style. And that book was a real revelation to me. And one of those, it really tracing the whole history of where do you, first of all, women composers aren't well regarded anyway, but then what do you do if you're also an African American woman and writing classical European art tradition style? And I was really taken by the story of Regina Harris Bioki, and I was actually inspired by that to just reach out to her proactively on the off chance that she might respond. And that's how our friendship started. And I let her know about this project, and Sylvie and I worked out an arrangement.
It comes and goes a little bit. Can you just kind of rephrase that you just said?
Not only is she a marvelous composer, but she's also a poet, a community activist, deeply engaged in the musical life of Chicago, and engaged with the youth of Chicago, and really trying to get them involved in the arts, whether that is poetry or music, however that manifests itself. And she's just a delightful soul, and I love her work. It is a combination. It's uniquely her voice, where it really has that Chicago jazz blues influence, but written in a classical art tradition, and with these beautiful soaring lines and jazzy chords, and just that wonderful combination that you hear one song by her, and then you know that song is by Regina.
Thank you, by the way, for helping with the pronunciation of her name. I appreciate it greatly. How about Hilary Tan? Sylvie?
Yes, as Eileen mentioned, Hilary Tan was a guest artist, a guest composer for the 2010 Women in Music Festival that I directed at the Eastman School of Music until 2014. And she was there for about almost a week at the Eastman School of Music. And she had written 3 songs for us. I had mentioned that before she arrived, that we were looking at composers to write for us on E.E. Cummings' poetry, and we ended up premiering the songs. Was it during the festival, Annie, or before that? I can't remember. It was during the festival. I guess too busy to remember. It was a busy week, a busy year. But anyway, we performed the premiere of those 3 songs with the composer present, and we had coaching with her, and we worked with her. It was a great experience. So,
because we also ran to Syracuse. It was a joint commission with the Society for New Music in Syracuse, and then in Rochester, it was the Susan B. Anthony Fund. Am I remembering correctly, Susan?
Yes, it was. It was the Susan B. Anthony Institute for Gender and Women's Studies. That's a U of R grant. That is, if you have a project, a special project that has to do with women, they love to support us. So that was a great project for us. And anyway, so that was great. And Hilary, I'd like to point out that she is also a poet. She writes in haiku style. And she was actually the first composer to be invited to our lecture series on the River Campus that is usually reserved for literary people, poets, just writers, but she was a composer writing haiku poetry. So she read some of her work, but she also spoke about how do you approach a text and how do you set it into music? And for people in the audience, it was fascinating because I had not heard that part of the creative process. So it was a treat for everybody. And she is such a lovely person, such a warm person. She loves nature. She's a big fan of anything environment. She loves her native Wales and probably will retire there. I have that feeling.
Going home.
Going home.
I think whom we have left is Christine Duncan.
Oh, yeah.
Well, actually, this is maybe a little sweet juncture to talk about. You were talking about Hillary, Sylvie, and you inspired me in terms of talking about some of those unexpected gifts that we may not understand at first blush. That Hillary was also a very renowned poet for haiku, but then E.E. Cummings. I don't know if you noticed on the cover. That's actually a painting by E.E. Cummings.
Oh. You know, I read about it, but I never quite connected when I was getting prepared. Thanks for reminding me and bringing that up, that he was also a painter.
Yes, it's the art collection at the University. Art collection of the University of Rochester actually holds a number of Cummings paintings. Apparently, he was so poor that he would paint a lot of his works on the cardboard that he would receive when he got his dry cleaning back. So actually, it's a curator's nightmare in terms of preservation. But it's in a certain sense, as you can see from the exuberant nude on the cover of our CD, it really has that unabashed joyousness, celebration of the human experience and human expression that we hear so much of in his poetry. It's so beautiful to see so much of it in his painting as well. And so that was a really special find by CD that I thought really just made the CD, added that, who knew when we started out that it was going to that delicious
part. That Rochester connection, that was amazing, yeah.
And also just these, people are so multi-talented. As are you two as well, but just there's things that you never know. I mean, all of us think of E.E. Cummings, for example, as a writer, poet, and then I discovered, and thank you for reminding me, he also was a painter. I really had no idea. So amazing. How about we give a little chat about Christine Duncan? Who's up?
Sure. Who's up? Yeah. Well. Jocelyn Hagan actually connected us to Christine Duncan because Jocelyn Hagan also has I hear some cars.
I live in downtown Santa Barbara, and unfortunately, it's rush hour.
No, that's fine. So she has her own publishing company where she publishes works of herself, her husband, and also other young composers she believes in. And Christine is a Canadian composer from the Ottawa area. She's a violinist, and also she teaches strings to little kids. And she has, to me, I find that her harmonic palette, if you want to describe it, is very fitting to E.E. Cummings, very pastel-like, very French. There's a lot of Debussy in it, lots of Messiaen, very shimmering. So we loved right away. We played through it and said, "Wow, that is perfect." Yeah, to insert into the project. Yeah. So it was a great. A great commission, and we're happy that Jocelyn put us together with her. She had already published a few pieces of hers, but she said she hasn't written any songs yet. She needs to write some songs. I'm sure she would be good, and had a good instinct. She had a very good instinct. So, yeah.
Do I dare ask? Well, it's time to kind of wind things down, but do I dare ask what's next? Surely. after I know you did released an earlier CD, and this Unto Thee I Burn is magnificent, and I'm going to make sure everybody knows that it's in my sphere of influence, however modest, knows all about this CD. But have you had time? I mean, you're sort of in different zones now. It must be difficult, but is anything percolating at all?
Not at the moment. I mean, we keep our eyes open, our ears open. But for now, yeah, we're pretty busy on each side. She in Cincinnati and me here in Rochester. But yeah, there's always something that surprises us in the musical life. So we're keeping our eyes open.
Well, I hope something will surprise you both very, very soon, because this CD, Unto Thee I Burn, has been a revelation for me. It's a tremendous service to women composers around the world, let alone the North American composers represented on this CD. It's beautifully recorded. As I've mentioned, both of you are such wonderful collaborative musicians, and it's all about phrasing, intuitive phrasing. And Eileen, what a gorgeous, really magnificent voice you have. It's just so thrilling to hear you sing. So both of you, I want to thank you very much indeed for letting me have a few minutes of your evenings. It's about whatever, going on 8 o'clock on the East Coast, and we will, I trust, meet again. I hope so. Put your heads together and come up with something for me, will you?
The inspiration. It's lovely to have the opportunity to just to celebrate and to give thanks for the opportunity of making music and for you to share that music. Just our gratitude. Thank you.
I just can't wait to put this up. I really can't wait. It's a very, very important contribution to our art, to all art. So I need to thank you both.
Oh.
Very, very moving, beautiful experience. Many thanks. We'll see you another time.
Yes.
Bye-bye. Au revoir.